So what I've done is I'm going to start with this case. We're going to place some implants on the lower mandible and on the maxilla and the all posterior quadrants. When I imported the DICOM data, I saved it, and then I imported the STL of the patient's teeth that we scanned today. The computer had a hard time meshing them together. So what we did was we went into align and align by points. And to do that, all you do is click on some points that are very similar, both sides, and it helps get a better reference to stitch. And then we'll press OK. And what you see is, as it aligns everything, you can see in this view here, it's perfectly stitched. So now what we'll do is we'll do File, Import, and we'll do the same thing. We're going to import STL model, but now we're going to import the upper model. This is the patient's upper model. And we're going to see how it stitches into this scene here. So you can see it's already out of reference. And I think it's going to be a hard one to stitch. So we'll try to put a couple different points. And I like to do something like this on the anterior teeth to help the computer figure it out. And 3 on this side. And press align. So this is what it has, and obviously that's wrong. We go back into surfaces and we turn the lower jaw on. So the lower jaw is right. That's meshed correctly. So all we really need to do is we need to click off the lower jaw, and we need to invert the just to show the upper jaw, and then we need to go into our model manipulation page. I'll just shrink this to help see better. Model manipulation, align by points. So it'll bring us into this panel, and all we do is pretty much the same thing we did just a second ago. Get these two aligned where they look similar, and place our points. So do that again, here, here, here. All right, and press OK. And then you can see if we change the surfaces color to, let's say, light blue, you can see that pull up. So now from here on out, all we need to do is add some teeth and plan our implants. We'll save this data. So I'll quickly add some teeth. I'm going to add tooth tool, selecting the tooth that we want, medium size, and add them in here. And then actually we'll replace that tooth because I selected the wrong tooth. Let's see, replace, second. Okay. And we'll make it a little bit bigger, and then we'll add a first molar. First molar. We'll rotate that and drag it out. Kind of like a little digital wax up for a patient. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. We will add a premolar. Second by. And first molar. There you go. So now all we have to do left is the lower. So we'll go to surfaces, choose this off, go to lower, and click on this and just press invert off. And sometimes it'll keep the teeth like that. So what you do is just go up here and click teeth off, and then we'll start adding our lower teeth. So we need 1 molar here. And you can go into the tooth segment. You can also do it here manually and lock all those teeth. Add the next tooth. So add tooth bicuspid. And then finally we'll add, we'll add the first molar. This is really fast. You can make some fine tunes later. All right, so from here on out, all we need to do is add our implants based on the cross section. If we add on all of our teeth, you can see the bite looks pretty stable. We also have to add the nerve. So we'll go into add nerve tool, detect nerve. We'll scroll down till we get to the canal, which is there. Have the computer detect the nerve. We'll go now move it to the opposite side. Do the same thing, detect nerve. That didn't work, so we can try that again. Just get a better point of reference. And if not, we'll just manually draw it in. There we go. All right, so that looks a little off here. Actually, that's good. And we can double check in this cross section. It looks perfect. So the nerve is obviously super low. Check on the opposite side, make sure that looks good. That looks perfect. Okay. So then adding our implants is going to be really simple right now. Based on the panoramic x-ray, we can just click and add implant. And so we'll stay on the maxilla. And we'll just place some 10s for now. Just place it there. Add another implant. A little bit larger, longer for a molar. It's a little bit too close to each other. We'll figure that out later on. Now we'll do the mandible. 5/0 by 8.5. Maxilla, mandible again. Four 3 by 10 for the premolar. I prefer 4 3s or 3 5s if I don't have enough bone for premolar. Go back to maxilla. 4 3 by 10. We can use that for the bicuspid. We'll double check all these images, and then last implant. Let's do a 5/0 by 8. Okay. So they look like they're too close to each other. Yeah. All right. So we'll go back into this view and see where these actually come out. So based on the cross section, this is too far out. The buccal plate, that looks better. Obviously, you need some grafting here. The premolar is out a little bit. We need to shrink this down. Instead of a 4.3, we need to change this to a, let's see, model surgical guide. Let's go in advanced mode. We need to change this implant into a 3.5. Same length. Over here, this is the 5/0 out of the buccal plate. So we could leave that there or change it. Here's the maxillary one. Change that. So just kind of getting these in a better orientation, obviously. Bicuspid. Okay, so here we go. That's pretty much it. Everything else looks good. So now what I want to look at is in the mandible. what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off all the teeth on the upper arch. And then I'm going to turn off all the implants on the upper arch. Figure these out. I think it lowers for. All right, that one's turned off. Let's see. Okay. And then what I want to do is click on the guide sleeve tube holes just for the implants that are. Where's this go? This is number 3. This is implant number 4. This is implant number 29. It's implant number 19. Implant 14. It's implant 13. Okay. Now that they're all labeled, what I want to do is turn off all the maxillary implants and turn on all the mandibular implants with the guide sleeve tube. Mandibular with guide sleeve. Make sure everything's locked. All right. So let me get rid of this tooth on the top. There we go. Left mandibular. Yeah, I want to see that. Mandibular. Okay. So I should have 3 teeth highlighted. Let's see. Turn them off. All right. And then I'll turn them back on. So really what I want you guys to take a look at is here, when you have the guide sleeve tube holes, and you can change the transparency of these teeth if you want to. And notice that they come out the central fossa or the occlusal surface of the teeth that we added. So the trajectory of these implants is in the correct position, even though he has rigid deficiency. We can graft that today procedure. In the implant phase, if you're going to be using fully guided surgical kit, you can use this. But in the guide panel, rather in the implant list, if you instead of putting direct cut drills, because that's the offset, if you use pilot drills, or you can change this to fully guided system, whatever you plan on using. So the mandible is good. So I can click off on everything for the mandible and turn on everything for the maxilla. Once you'll do that, you get something like this. So this is pretty much what we did, going pretty fast. And what I need to do, obviously, is change this premolar one and this molar one. That's not bad, given the short amount of time I worked on it. So this premolar one here, and you need to unlock them. Looks like it needs to go a little bit mesial. You can see it move here in this section. And then maybe a little distally, or buccally rather. Looks better. Now we can change this molar. Get a little bit more in the central fossa. They're a little bit too close to each other, is what the software's telling us. So we can change the size of the teeth, make them a little bit bigger. And then now I need to change this maxillary first molar here. See if I can get it a little bit more in the central fossa by rotating it. That looks a lot better. So now from here, all we need to do go is surgical guide panel. Actually, if this tooth, I can just push it back a little bit. Just unlock it. There we go. That looks good. So now what we need to do is turn all the teeth off, keep the guide sleeve tubes on, go into surfaces, turn off, and then just trace everything to set up our guide panel. This is lower jaw, make sure it's upper jaw, maxilla, draw, hold down the shift key, and fastly Edit curve. So in a relatively short amount of time, we can make a maxillary mandibular surgical guide for the upper and lower, replacing premolars and molars. And something like this, I might even change the offset 3mm surgical guide to like a 2mm guide. Uses less material. It's a quicker print. I don't think I need all 3mm for something so big. So in settings, change this from a 3 to a 2. Press OK. Create surgical guide. And even in fact, if I wanted to, I could even add a window, something like that, so I can see it seat on the anterior. Make sure I get enough space here. Create surgical guide. Save. And here's our surgical guide. So I'll be able to seat it in the posterior. These are pilot drill holes for the posterior areas. And now we'll go ahead and make our upper. So that's our upper. Our lower model now. We'll turn the surfaces off. Turn the guide tube off. And now we just need to turn all this off, turn everything on for the lower as far as the guide sleeve tube. So go back into implants. Turn them all off and just add the uppers. Or lowers rather, get rid of the uppers. All right, so there's our 3. Go to the implants. And we'll turn all these off. I don't really need them. All right, so again, we're going to go back in the guide panel. This time select lower jaw. Make sure it says mandible. We're going to click draw curve. It automatically locks the implants into position so we don't accidentally mess anything up. Hold on the shift key. Rotate it around this area. All right, edit curve. And then we're just going to press create surgical guide. Again, you can add another window if you want to make sure it seats in the anterior. Sometimes it's pretty nice. I really like this to make sure it's fully seated in the anterior. All right, let's press create surgical guide. And there you have it. Here's our surgical guide. I really like this. Here's the LSU colors. But I really like this because you can see it seated in the posterior. You can also see it in the anterior, both sides. Pilot drill guide, take it out, lay a flap. This is going to be really nice for this patient. We're going to go ahead and save this data. And so we'll go back into surfaces, click off of our lower, and click on our 2 surgical guides. And we have 2 guides. Let's go back. We have 2 surgical guides that we're going to 3D print. All we have to do is file, press export data, click off of everything except for the 2 surgical guides, and press export. That's it. Thanks so much for watching.